Hello, my name is Pastor Kathy Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas. Greetings. We are reading through the Bible with commentary. We are on Genesis chapter 48, and I expect we are actually going to do 3 chapters tonight and wrap up the book of Genesis. We are at the end. Jacob has come to Egypt, has seen his son Joseph. All 12 sons are reunited. And now we have blessings and last words. So some of this is poetic. Some of this I'm going to zip through, and some of it, I don't know. We'll see if we can do 3 chapters or not. Chapter 48. After this, Joseph was told, "Your father is ill." So he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," he summoned his strength and sat up in bed. So Joseph is now second in command. He's not hanging out with his dad. He's still busy running the country, basically. But when he hears that his father is sick, he goes to see him, which, of course, one should always go and see. If somebody says that your dad's not doing good, or your mother, you should really go and try to see them before they pass away. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," he summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty," that is El Shaddai, "appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and he blessed me. And he said to me, I am going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers. I will make you a company of peoples, and will give this land to your offspring after you for perpetual holding. Therefore your 2 sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, are now mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are." So in other words, they count as my offspring. Because you're my son, they're my grandchildren, they are part. And actually, often when we name the tribes of Israel, Ephraim and Manasseh get named individually, even though they're technically half-tribes. And Ephraim actually at some point becomes synonymous with the entire northern kingdom of Israel. So Ephraim does become quite powerful in the future. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are. As for the offspring born to you after them, they shall be yours. They shall be recorded under the names of their brothers with regard to their inheritance. For when I came from Paddan, Rachel, alas, died in the land of Canaan on the way, while there was still some distance to go to Ephrath, and I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, he said, "Who are these?" Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God has given me here." And he said, "Bring them to me, please, that I may bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he could not see well. So Joseph brought him near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, "I did not expect to see your face, and here God has let me see your children also." So he was sure that Joseph was dead. Joseph is not dead. He was so happy to actually get to see Joseph. Now he's not only seen Joseph, he's seen Joseph's children. Then Joseph removed them from his father's knees and bowed himself with his face to the earth. Joseph took them both, Ephraim on his right hand toward Israel's left, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right, and brought them near him. So, because Ephraim is the younger, so he's supposed to go on the left hand. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. He blessed Joseph and said, "The God before whom my ancestors Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the boys, and in them let my name be perpetuated, and the name of my ancestors Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude on the earth." So blessing his grandchildren and claiming them as part of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father. Since this one is the firstborn, put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you Israel will invoke blessings, saying, God make you like Ephraim and like Manasseh." So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. And of course, he himself was ahead of his older twin brother, Esau, just as there's all the way through, there's kind of this priority is not necessarily given to the proper, culturally accepted oldest person. Then Israel said to Joseph, "I am about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you again to the land of your ancestors. I now give to you one portion more than your brothers, the portion that I took from the hand of the Amorites, with my sword and with my bow." Chapter 49. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather around that I may tell you what will happen to you in days to come." And then this whole next section is written in poetic form. I'm not going to read it too poetically, but it is technically an ancient poem. And it's a blessing, and it's also kind of a prophecy. And since it probably wasn't written down until significantly later, it does reflect what happens with some of the different tribes. "Assemble and hear, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the firstfruits of my vigor, excelling in rank and excelling in power. Unstable as water, you shall no longer excel, because you went up onto your father's bed, then you defiled it. You went up onto my couch." So you're my oldest, and you're my vigor, but you should not have had sex with my concubine. "Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. May I never come into their counsel. May I not be joined to their company. For in anger they killed men, and at their whim they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel." So Simeon and Levi were the ones who got so mad because their sister Dinah had been raped and basically killed an entire town full of people because of it. "Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He crouches down, he stretches out like a lion. Like a lioness, who dares rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and the obedience of the peoples is his. Binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washes his garments in wine, and his robe in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. So Judah, who stepped up and said that he would defend Benjamin, who took a lead actually after Reuben, and who eventually does become the ancestor of King David, King Solomon, and of course Jesus himself. So Judah is often referred to as the lion. Jesus is the Lion of Judah, the Lamb of Judah. That's because he is descended from Judah. Verse 13, "Zebulun shall settle at the shore of the sea. He shall be a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between the sheepfolds. He saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. So he bowed his shoulder to the burden, and became a slave at forced labor. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider falls backwards. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Gad shall be raided by raiders, but he shall raid at their heels. Asher's food shall be rich, and he shall provide royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe let loose that bears lovely fawns. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a spring. His branches run over the wall. The archers fiercely attacked him. They shot at him and pressed him hard, yet his bow remained taut, and his arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. Blessings of your father are stronger than the blessings of the eternal mountains, the bounties of the everlasting hills. May they be on the head of Joseph, on the brow of him who was set apart from his brothers. So a huge blessing there for Joseph, who of course was always his favorite, and who was the one who got them to Egypt and saved their lives and gets a double portion. So Joseph gets a very big blessing. And then his full brother Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, and at the evening dividing the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, blessing each one of them with a suitable blessing. And some of this poetic language is so ancient. There's imagery, and people are not completely sure what the imagery, what does it represent? Why is it there? Prophecy can be like that. So it's a blessing, and it's also a prophecy. Verse 29, then he charged them, saying to them, I am about to be gathered to my people. That is, I'm about to die. And when somebody dies, their bones are, you get 1 year for the flesh to rot away, and then you collect the bones and put them in a bone box called an ossuary. So you are literally gathered, your bones are gathered. So gather to my people, bury me with my ancestors in the cave of the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, in the land of Canaan, in the field that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried, there Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it were purchased from the Hittites. When Jacob ended his charge to his sons, he drew up his feet into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Chapter 50. Then Joseph threw himself on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. Joseph commanded the physicians in his service to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. They spent 40 days in doing this, for that is the time required for the embalming. And the Egyptians wept for him 70 days. So it is not typical for the Jewish people to have an embalmment, to be embalmed, but they're in Egypt, and Joseph is a very powerful person in Egypt, and he can arrange for whatever he wants to have arranged. So he arranged for Jacob to be embalmed, which takes 40 days, and then 70 days of mourning by the Egyptians. When the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph addressed the household of Pharaoh. If now I have found favor with you, please speak to Pharaoh as follows. My father made me swear an oath. He said, I am about to die. In the tomb that I hewed out for myself in the land of Canaan, there you shall bury me. Now therefore let me go up, so that I may bury my father, then I will return. Pharaoh answered, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do. Verse 7. So Joseph went up to bury his father. With him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, as well as the household of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's household. Only their children, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. So all the adult Hebrew Jewish people, all of the Egyptian officials and powerful people, everybody went out. Both chariots and charioteers went with him. It was a very great company. When they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, they held there a very great and sorrowful lamentation, and he observed a time of mourning for his father 7 days. So they've come to this area. A threshing floor is where you can take the grain and separate the grain from the stalks. So think of wheat. It grows on a stalk and there's little kernels at the end. And you throw it on a threshing floor. Threshing floor is actually much bigger than I thought it was, which explains why it's often used in this case as a gathering place, because it's a fairly flat, fairly large area, and a threshing sledge, like a sled, would be dragged behind an animal, and they would do like figure eights and circles, and little children and adults would ride on the sledge to push it down against the grain. But when they're not actually threshing grain, it's a fairly large, fairly flat, open area that you can gather. So they're using the threshing floor at Atad to gather and to have this ceremony of 7 more days of mourning for Jacob. When the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw the mourning on the threshing floor of Atad, they said, "This is a grievous mourning on the part of the Egyptians." Therefore the place was named Abel Mizraim, which means mourning, the mourning of Egypt. Mourning like you're sad, not mourning like good morning. Mourn like to cry. So mourning place of Egypt, Abel Mizraim, it is beyond the Jordan. Thus his sons did for him as he had instructed them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah, in the field near Mamre, which Abraham bought as a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone up with him to bury his father. Verse 15. Realizing that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers said, "What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong that we did to him?" So they are still feeling guilty for what they did to sell him into slavery, and then of course he ended up in Egypt. So they approached Joseph saying, "Your father gave this instruction before he died." It is possible that he did give this instruction. We don't have all of the instructions that Joseph gave. It's also possible that the brothers just made this up to say, "Please don't hurt us." Say to Joseph, "I beg you, forgive the crime of your brothers and the wrong they did in harming you. Now therefore please forgive the crime of the servants of God of your father." Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also wept, fell down before him, and said, "We are here as your slaves." But Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people as he is doing today. So have no fear. I myself will provide for you and your little ones." In this way he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. So they said, "Dad said you need to forgive us." And he said, "I'm not in the place of God. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm going to take care of you and provide for you and for your children. It's okay. Don't worry. You are forgiven because you did mean to hurt me, but in the end, God used it for good." And so sometimes in our lives, some terrible things happen, and it isn't that God causes them, but God does use all things, even the things that people mean badly, God will use for good. Verse 22, So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also born on Joseph's knees. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "I am about to die, but God will surely come to you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." So Joseph made the Israelites swear, saying, "When God comes to you, you shall carry up my bones from here." And Joseph died, being 110 years old. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. So obviously the famine is long over, but they are still there in Egypt. This is where Joseph had made his home, where he was at home with his wife and his kids, and he's quite an Egyptian. He's a Hebrew and Israelite, but he's also very Egyptian in his culture. And he basically says, "Make you promise eventually God is going to send us all back to the promised land. And when he does, take me with you and bury me there. So he gets embalmed, he gets put into a coffin, and we will hear when we get to the next book, because this is the end of the first book of the Bible. This is the end of the book of Genesis. And tomorrow we will begin into the book of Exodus and hear how they do eventually leave Egypt. But it isn't right away. It'll take them a little while till they get out. So Genesis is full of such interesting histories and stories. It's very, very ancient writing. Exodus is also pretty ancient and lots of interesting stories. So now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace. Serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.